The first scream wasn't the loudest. It was the silence that followed that chilled Olivia to the bone. The old Hill House had stood for almost 2 centuries at the edge of the small Massachusetts town, shrouded in fog most mornings, abandoned after a string of deaths that no one dared to explain. They called it cursed. Evil. Haunted by things best left unspoken. But to Olivia Harris, it was simply an address, a rundown mansion that offered her family the only shot at stability they'd had in years. Widowed and desperate, Olivia moved in with her 3 children, Emma, 15 and bitter, Jack, 11 and scared of his own shadow, and little Sophie, 5, still clinging to dolls missing their heads. The world hadn't been kind to the Harris family. Olivia's husband had been lost to cancer the year before, hospital bills devouring their savings, leaving behind debts and broken promises. They were the kind of family who bought groceries with quarters, the kind who wore the same coat for 5 winters straight. So when the Hill House came on the market for a price too good to be true, they didn't ask why. They just packed up their battered sedan and drove toward the unknown. But the unknown had been waiting for them. It began subtly, shadows that didn't move with their owners, whispers that drifted through cracked walls. The first night, Olivia found footprints of ash trailing from the attic door to the staircase. No one in the house owned boots that size. By the second week, the house had introduced itself fully. Emma heard voices in the bathroom mirror. Jack swore he saw someone watching him from the tree outside, except the tree was dead, leafless for decades. Sophie spoke to something that wasn't there, singing lullabies to thin air, and when Olivia asked who she was talking to, Sophie only smiled and said, "The lady with no eyes." But fear alone wasn't what cracked Olivia's heart. It was watching her children slowly unravel. Emma started sleeping with her fists clenched, as though fighting nightmares that never let go. Jack refused to go upstairs alone. Sophie's singing grew quieter and quieter until one night, Olivia realized she was humming the same funeral song they'd played at her father's burial. Still, they stayed. Where else could they go? As weeks passed, the house tested them, turning love into suspicion, hope into dread. Doors slammed in the middle of the night. Olivia's dreams were filled with her husband's voice whispering terrible things. "You should have let me die alone," it hissed. She'd wake up gasping, sheets tangled around her legs like shackles. Hill House wasn't just haunted. It fed on them, on every ache they brought with them, every regret they carried, like the house itself was alive, hungry for broken families. But Olivia was not just broken, she was furious. One storm-lashed night, when the wind screamed through broken shutters, Olivia gathered her children into the crumbling living room. "This house thinks it can take us," she whispered. "But it doesn't know who we are. We've lost everything else. We're not losing each other." The challenge wasn't just the haunting, it was the way grief had hollowed them out before they'd even arrived. It was the way Emma refused to trust anyone, the way Jack believed bad things only happened to weak people, the way Sophie held conversations with emptiness because it gave her more comfort than her own family did. And it was Olivia's own secret guilt. If she hadn't spent so much time working during her husband's illness, if she had fought harder for him, would they still have him now? The house whispered these things every night. But the real haunting wasn't the spirits, it was them. Their pain. Their guilt. Their grief. And that was something Olivia could fight. They stopped running from the voices. Emma, for the first time, screamed back at the mirror, "If you have something to say, say it." The glass cracked, but the voice never spoke again. Jack stood outside under the skeletal tree and faced the figure in the window. It blinked and disappeared. And Sophie, beautiful brave Sophie, looked into the attic darkness and said firmly, "You don't scare me anymore." Piece by piece, the house's power crumbled. Because ghosts don't haunt walls. They haunt people. And when people heal, when families choose each other over their pain, ghosts lose their hold. The final challenge came on a night colder than any before. Olivia stood in the center of the hallway where the walls bled water stains, and the air smelled like rotten dirt. The lady with no eyes appeared before her, closer now, face gaunt, mouth whispering a name Olivia couldn't hear. But Olivia took a step forward anyway. "I'm sorry for whatever happened to you," she said, voice trembling. "But you can't have my children." The figure tilted its head, blinked its eyeless sockets, and vanished into mist. By the time spring came, the haunting was over, not because the house changed, but because the family inside it had. They didn't have more money. They didn't have their father back. But they had something stronger: each other. Broken doesn't mean destroyed. Haunted doesn't mean hopeless. And fear is loudest when we face it alone. They stayed in Hill House, not because they had to, but because they chose to. And for the first time in months, laughter echoed off its old, splintered walls. And the house, it listened. Because even ghosts can't stand the sound of hope. Message: sometimes the real ghosts we fight aren't the ones hiding in shadows or whispering in empty rooms. They're the ones living in our regrets, our grief, and the weight of everything we think we've lost. But the strongest houses are not built of wood or stone, they're built of people who refuse to give up on each other. And no haunting in the world is stronger than a family that fights to stay whole.